Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Her Voice Collective. I'm Kim, your host, and we're back with the women in business, but the accomplished women in business, so they can share with you everything they've been through, the lessons, the myths, what to do, what not to do. Today, I have with us leadership coach, feminine leadership coach, Georgina Hills.
So my name is Georgina Hills. I'm here on the Her Voice Collective podcast. My business is Room 102. We are a embodied leadership agency where we focus on building resilience for female leaders. You can find me on LinkedIn under Georgina Hills. Our website is room102.co and also on Instagram at room102official.co.
Welcome, Georgina.
Hi, thank you, Kim. I'm excited to be here today.
I am so excited to be here with you today because you do feminine leadership in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
Feminine leadership is something that I talk about as well, but I'm so sure your story, your lessons, and the entire essence that you're going to bring to it is very different for all of us. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited to be here because it's an interesting conversation and very interesting how I got to this space as well. So I'll be happy to share that with you.
Well, let's go right in then. How did that happen?
Yeah, so, for me, I, was in the fashion industry for over 25 years. An industry that I'm very, very passionate about to this day. And, had an incredible experience buying and, managing, various brands from mass market all the way through to the luxury industry. I kind of got to a stage where I burnt out. The industry is, very fast paced. I think, it's sometimes misunderstood or misinterpreted when you're looking at the business from the outside. It can be seen as very glamorous.
Yeah.
There's constant change that's happening. And you see it now with what's happening with the creative directors changing, which again is very male driven and not so female driven. My body shut down. And I, from there wanted to kind of really make a change, and make a change for the people in the fashion industry, particularly targeted at women. I also coach men as well, but it was born primarily to really focus on women in leadership, on how to build resilience. So I do this now through embodiment coaching. So I trained as an accredited embodiment coach. So I actually trained as a yoga teacher many years ago. So I kind of really like the idea of connecting mind-body because, what we tend to do, our brain tells us lies effectively. So, when we actually listen to the body and reconnect again, this is really how we can build resilience. So, this is what I do now is kind of work with leaders one-to-one and, with the corporates, with the fashion corporates here on really how different tools and techniques and how they can build resilience for themselves and for their teams.
I like your storyline that includes mind and body through yoga. I was having a chat this morning with someone and I said, I wish everybody learned yoga, not because of the breath work or the asanas, but it teaches you a different level of focus because you're suddenly jala band, then you're mula band, then you're this breath, that breath. Focus your eyes on your third eye or your chin or your nose, and to just practice that, it teaches you focus because so many people lack focus and they're like, how do I focus better? You practice these things, right?
Yep.
So let's dive into embodiment coaching. You're saying all magic words to me, Georgina, just that you know that. These are like the words that are, what do you call them? My happy words.
Yeah.
So what does embodiment coaching entail?
Yeah. So it's really, as I said, it's really kind of making, trying to get people to reconnect to their bodies. So it's really integrating, mind, body and spirit, or mind, body and business. There's two different ways I kind of approach it really. It's really connecting back to the body and using, different techniques through, tools and techniques to help leaders throughout their career or throughout their working day, if they're about to step into a meeting, if they step into a call, but also for them to build that awareness, like you were saying, on what their body is telling them.
Right.
Especially with areas as well. Again, about how to prevent burnout, noticing when you're stressed, notice when your nervous system is and everything's feeling heightened. And how to use different techniques, throughout your working day, but also it's just about how to use the body as well in order to maybe move forward with the problem.
So what would that look like, for example?
Without me standing up, but it could be. I mean, we do when I coach clients. Sometimes we can be standing up. We can do a little bit of movement. We incorporate even, it could be anchoring into it as well. It's even bringing in a little bit NLP because I'm also NLP trained as well. So it can be just, maybe if you're feeling. I'll give you an example of even yesterday when I was a coaching client. And I think they kind of unpacked that they needed to let go. The funny thing is they actually did this, when we were exploring the problem. So it was just, how they then use the body if they felt like they were coming up with a problem and thinking, okay, maybe I need to let go. Just by doing that movement, it's just kind of creating new habits to kind of really, help reframe what they're doing in order for them to move forward with it.
That's very interesting because we usually, the mind and body is mostly connected with, I'm going to tell my muscle to do something, but it can be expanded in so many other ways. The reverse of it.
Yeah.
That if I did a certain action, it's going to put me into a certain state of being.
Yeah.
Like I remember somebody years ago, I read this, that you want to calm down, automatically sit in that position, which you would use for prayer because your body remembers to just go like quiet for a moment, right?
Yeah, no, very much so. And even, we, practices is to take it back, when you, if you're feeling like you're going to be very nervous going into a meeting, take it back and put the body again in that space of, okay, when has it gone well? What did the body feel like? What did a no feel like, for example? And what did a yes feel like? So really taking yourself back into that,
that integration.
And how did my body feel? What was my body doing at that stage when I had a yes, or I felt great? Usually we're much more open, as a leader. When something feels good and we feel confident, we naturally open up.
Right.
When we don't, we do this. We're constricted. Our shoulders are down. So it's really just all these little movements and habits, and just that awareness. And a lot of it is around, really building awareness of what your body is telling you.
Right. Georgina, when I say we, the world that is not in fashion has a very different view of it. I think in a very general way, the world would view it, the only inside eyes would be Devil Wears Prada or whatever else we follow on the gram. So what are the myths that might exist in the fashion world and leadership in the fashion world?
Yeah, no, very much so. And I've actually worked with a Devil Wears Prada character, yes.
Really?
I have indeed, yes. Yeah.
Is that true?
So yes, those individuals do exist in the industry, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think, like I was saying, I mean, the first myth is really people believing that the fashion industry is glamorous. It is very tough. It's very competitive. It is very, deadline driven.
Yeah.
It is very cutthroat. You're having to come up with creative new ideas all the time. It's constant change that is happening because, the industry is very fast paced. Doesn't matter whether you're in fast fashion or luxury, regardless, the business is very fast paced because, of the competitiveness of the world right now. It's very competitive. Sustainability is very important. So there's just so many external factors that are influencing global politics, whatever. So, it makes it even more important that leadership needs to change within the fashion industry because, how do you handle all of this constant change that is happening? So, really kind of building that resilience is kind of a way to do it. I think something else, and if we take it back to the Devil Wears Prada scenario, is that, women, and I know it's across many industries, but I think even more so in the fashion industry, at the end of the day, it's perceived as an industry that women are there to, women wear fashion. But actually, if you look at the leadership, it's predominantly male. You look at the creative directors now that have been placed this season. You look at the C-suite. It's across globally. It's very male driven. So, women really feel like they have to hustle and they have to compete as much as possible and really to step into their masculine energy, and in order to compete against the men and to be seen. Yeah, exactly.
I was going to ask, because is a creative person also leading, because your creative energy mainly would come from sacral chakra, which is more flow, more connection, and like you said, because it's such a fast moving industry, what is the possible tools, or what are the things that you see that has that energy turned on? The creativeness. So is a person in creative field also a leader? Because again, they're very different skill sets.
Yeah.
Very different. They're on two ends of this table.
Yeah.
Right?
No, very, very much so, very much so. And I've, interesting, I've worked with people that can have both, but then I've worked with people that maybe don't manage that, and it's almost like that leader. A lot of the time, if somebody is very creative, they might not necessarily have that leadership skill set, because their space is very much being in that creative
because you want to
flow.
be in your space and you want to be in your bubble. You can't leading people. You have to be out of your bubble to lead, to understand, to engage, to have that, I'm going to handhold and then going to let you be. To function in high creativity, you want to shut the doors down and be in your space. So
you do. But I think, I've seen it where, leaders have allowed, if we take a creative director role as an example, or, a buying director or a marketing director, where these roles can be super creative when you're in a leadership. But to be honest, most of the time you're having to spend your time in strategy or managing people. As usually you would have that, either somebody really focusing on coaching that person and supporting that person, or you would have a very operational CEO or person working hand in hand with them that can really kind of take that from them and then really create that safe space and to create, to make and support creativity. It's really about creating that safe space. And it's the same when you're managing change as well. It's about creating that safe space that people feel that they can have that flow and they can really create.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and maybe there is a straight answer to that or not, Georgina. What energy, when you work with people and you've been in the industry for so long, 2 decades and over, what stands out? When you're saying embodiment, if a person is pushing their competitiveness, if a person is balancing the strategy mindset and creative and the business mindset, and then there is somebody that's new in the industry, as an embodiment, what could somebody have that you would pick up today as the embodiment coach and executive coach and say, that person's going to make it?
Okay. Interesting question, actually. So, I mean, really, it's somebody that can balance both the feminine and masculine. So maybe somebody that is, so balancing the feminine as in they can balance the being with the doing. So they're not necessarily there. And it doesn't matter whether they're female or male, the most effective leaders for me that I've seen in the industry have been those leaders that have been able to balance both, so that's kind of, really through, embodiment. Again, it's just really, again, building that awareness of where they maybe naturally go to, and then how to bring it back and how to tap it in to balance from being to doing or doing or doing to being. So really it is those that are there, 50-50, because you look at the majority of the people in the industry, I've done it. For years I was in my masculine for a long time, like masculine energy, because, I'm also a hyperachiever. This is something for me that I'm just constantly been, I'm
driven.
constantly being very driven. If somebody describes me, they will always say I'm very driven and I'm very determined. That side has always been there. I was very determined to do well in the industry. And that tenacity brought me through. That at one stage, I personally kind of forgot that feminine and tried to keep it very, very separate as well. So that empathetic
How does
side.
that look in the being and the doing being balanced? If you could say like skill sets or a person's energy or how they would conduct themselves through the day, how would something like that look of a balance, feminine and masculine?
Yeah. I'll give you an example. A good trait for a female leader, which is natural for most, is empathy. So almost it could be that leader starting the day by just checking in with the team in the morning. How are you today? How are you feeling? Maybe sharing a win or a challenge that they have, but just taking the time to speak to with everybody in their team. As an example, is somebody just to show their empathy, but then also that person, maybe balancing the masculine side. So maybe being very driven by making sure that the team are very clear on the expectations and sharing the goals and what they are, but also then later on, sharing the wins together of those goals. So it's really very much that, rather than I think the devil, if we use the devil wears Prada scenario, where it's like, I dictate what is happening here. Nobody can challenge, challenge me back. They don't listen. There's no empathy. They're just very, KPI, very driven, very numbers driven. And always there's that saying, you can't achieve those numbers without the people there behind you. So it's, that's always a nice saying to kind of really
I like that you said that it's the empathy plus the numbers.
Yeah.
I've said this in one of the podcasts as well earlier, that when I'm training leadership, it's empathy without accountability is stupidity.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And I think when women have been told as women leader, you need to be empathetic, very often when women try to go into that space, they're empathetic and then they take the load on their back.
Yes.
And that's when burnout happens.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's very
Georgina,
true.
let's dive into that.
Yes.
What are the early signs of burnout? Because I believe that when a woman is no longer a woman, she's leaning so much on her masculine energy, your body finds its equilibrium. Whether it's in shutting down, more than often it is in shutting down, and sometimes it is the manifestation of physical ailments, right? So, been there, done that.
Yeah.
What are the early signs of burnout? I just hit a nerve.
The physical come out. So, I mean, it can vary depending on the person. So, individuals have, different signs of burnout. And just to touch on there, I was having a conversation recently about my burnout, and and I was saying that that what happened to me, my body shut down. I was almost like I describe it as a robot. If you think of a robot, when the batteries, you watch it in the movies and the batteries just go, and my body just went almost like this.
Wow.
And it just shut down. I became numb, and that was kind of the extreme version of kind of what happened. And the conversation I was having was the fact that people around me didn't really pick up on it so much, but because I'm naturally a hyperachiever, just to go back to that again, somebody said that to me recently. They said, I noticed we were doing the particular exercise and I'd written it down. She said, I noticed you're a hyperachiever, because that's your natural state where you're a hyperachiever, you're so driven. People can miss it very often, people around you that even know you. So really it's just, it's just checking in with people around you just to see really truly how they are. And if they're asking for help, listen and kind of respond. Physical as well is another way to do it. And even physically in the body, people can get detached. You know, they're not listening. You can see in their body language that they're looking detached. Maybe their frame has changed.
Right.
So they're very hunched over rather than
yeah.
open. Yeah. So, you know, these are kind of small indications to kind of, you know, look for. Again, if you're noticing that they're stepping very much into their masculine, you know, like you touched on, they can become very much like almost obsessive.
In the doing.
Yeah. And it can happen. So, yeah, they're the early signs to look for.
What is and it's not a straight answer, I know that, but getting out of the overly masculine energy for women in business, because that's all we've known, right? And when we think feminine, we're thinking, oh, flowy, and, you know, you're just doing nothing, and you're sitting there, and that's far from the truth. But if for women listening, our women in business listening to the podcast, what would be the myths that, you know, you understand today are myths, or the mistakes that you and I would have made, but this is for you to share with us, that just push you so much into masculine energy that even your body only knows how to function there. So what are the things that you've learned in hindsight, setting up the business, you know, in being in the industry, that if you had the option to change that, you would? Or if people listening in could avoid that, then what would that be?
I think when I was starting up, and even I go through this now, actually, and I go through this, you know, because I was very, like I say, just always very driven. And after the burnout, when I set up my business, I was at the time, I just want to share this story. At the time, I was like, right, I need a team around me. And because that's what I was used to having, you know, I was used to having that team and that support, because I was like, that's how I can be driven and how I can manage everything. And then what I realized was that actually, you know, you don't have the finances when you're starting up. You don't have the funds in order to do that. So then you're having to you know, rely on yourself, and you're doing everything as an entrepreneur. You're doing everything from A to Z. And then, you know, you get scared of success, and then you get scared of burning out again. This is obviously my story. I was scared of becoming successful, and I was putting in all the hours of the day, and I was being very driven again, like, oh my God, you know, I need to have all my social media ready. I need to be, you know, sending out my content. I need to be doing business development. You know, I need to be actually delivering the content that I'm doing,
you're selling,
and you're selling. So really about how to you know, manage those, you know, without kind of, I suppose, getting burnt out again. So you know, I think for me, I've now realised that the business is growing, you know, which I'm very happy about, and I've had to start letting go again. Interesting enough, I'm bringing in a full female team, and everybody around me is a full female team. But that feeling of letting go, I was so worried about. But I was actually, it's funny, I actually only said it a couple of days ago. I was like, it actually was a lot easier than I thought, because I just have been very, this is my expectations. This is what I need. I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to empower you, and I'm going to listen. And it's just really balancing, really looking at, okay, how do I balance, you know, what I need with how I'm being? And actually, that's really worked very well for me.
That's a good question.
Already,
yeah.
You know, already I found it worked. You know, it worked very well in terms of my expectations of the people around me. So, you know, yeah.
So the letting go comes from the undercurrent of perfectionism, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I think as entrepreneurs or leaders or mums even, the perfectionist energy is the most sabotaging one.
It is.
Because it's never enough.
Yeah, it isn't.
It's never enough.
We always put that pressure on ourselves as women.
Exactly.
We really do. And, you know, we have that, you know, imposter syndrome, self-doubt. We have to have all our ducks in a row before we go for that promotion, or when it's not necessarily the truth. And I was speaking to somebody recently, and she was saying that she'd had an interesting conversation about how it is true, like men, before they're applying for a VP or a CEO role, they don't feel like they need to get their ducks in a row, so to speak. They will just do it. They'll just go for it. They'll just apply for it, put themselves forward. Whereas women, because of the pressure society that we've dealt with over the years, we feel like, that perfectionism comes in. We have to have everything ready. I have to feel, everything is perfect and in place before I even put myself forward.
I feel it's not the pressures of society as much as it's the dissonance to self. Been there, done that, because earlier I'd feel the same thing. You and I were chatting off camera that, I was fully in my masculine energy because I didn't know what being in feminine energy in the corporate world meant. The pressures that we put is because you're trying to be somebody else. You're trying to be DNA structure somebody else, which is far away from what you're built for. It's far away. So then it is obviously not enough because you don't know how to be all of those things that you're not naturally.
It is. It's so true.
Right?
Yeah, very right. And a lot of the work I do as well is kind of really bringing people back to, values and purpose. So you're not in that, you're fighting yourself of who you really are and what really matters to you, so that you're bringing your true self and your true person to work. Because I didn't do that for a long time. I was very much like I needed to have a different persona from
home and work.
Home and work. It had to be two very different people. Then when
Thanks
I actually
for saying that, Georgina, because you cannot switch on, switch off. A lot of women think that at work I'm going to be badass and go home and be not badass. You can't switch it off.
You can't.
It's energy. It becomes your embedment, your embodiment, and then your kids run away from you. Your family relationships get so stressed out because there are two men in the house. What do you do with that? Right? Do you see that often in the industry where there are leaders? They go back home and they're trying to lead their men. Not in the feminine way.
Very often.
I'm the boss.
Very often that happens. It is. It's very, very common. Very, very common.
Because you can't switch off energy.
You can't.
Because if you're being a man at work, you can't go home and be like, hey, now I'm a woman. I need a man that's manlier. That's absolute... that's a joke. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way at all. But I see it very common. I see it with clients, and even for men. I mean, we talk about feminine, but men as well that don't disconnect, and it's hard for them as well. Like, how am I supposed to be in a world now where women are feeling like they have to be more competitive and tapping into their masculine? Like, how do I manage my relationship with that woman? When she is, like you say, just we're battling. These two energies that are coming here. So, okay.
Interesting. Georgina, walk us through the three things that a woman in business, and maybe specifically in the fashion world or in the leadership world, would take away as their mini masterclass from you, saying that these are definite things to do, and right into the camera.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, if I can, I'd like to share. We have a method that I work with on Room 102 called the Inner Lead Method, which follows kind of 9 kind of key essentials that we work on through the journey together. So if I was going to share 3 of those today, it would be, so N is an acronym in a lead. So it's acronym. So one of the N's is nervous system regulation. So, I think in a fast-paced environment, whether you are working within the fashion industry in the corporate or entrepreneur, that you really just take that moment, breath work is incredible, what it can actually, do to our system, just to reset. So even if it's 3 deep breaths just before stepping into a call or into an important meeting, just to take that moment ready for you. Then I would say a second would be the E in inner lead, so emotional intelligence. So again, it's just, that building that self-awareness for yourself and those around you. So, tapping into how is everybody around you on that table, as I was kind of saying earlier on, just checking in, how are you today? How are you feeling? I think so many people have got disconnected from actually really how they feel. So, really just kind of reconnecting to that. And then again, in the fashion industry, it's very fast paced. As an entrepreneur, we need to make decisions all the time. So, the D in lead would be decisiveness. So, in order to help, making those quick decisions is just recognizing just when you've made that confident decision before, and just going back to that space to help you make that quick decision. I mean, for many people, it's their gut, 99%. And when I ask this question, everyone says, how many times have you listened to your gut? And it's been correct. It's usually been right. So it's just tapping into, maybe for you, it's somewhere else in your body, because everybody is different, and it's just kind of tapping into that. So that's my 3.
Amazing. I like that, the decision making, because leadership is making decisions quicker, not going round and round in circles. And that's what people look up to a leader, because you're stuck in a moment and the leader goes dun, 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 dun. What are the 3 don'ts?
3 don'ts. The 3 don'ts, stepping into the leadership. I'm going to say, don't be afraid to take risks. I've had to learn that throughout my career, and then also, throughout my entrepreneurship journey as well, so throughout the fashion industry. And again, it's about tapping into that decisiveness, so listening to that body to help you take risks. And this is when we grow anyway, the most, is when we take risks, and then we learn from them. Another don't would be to don't put too much pressure on yourself. Again, I think, as we were saying earlier, naturally as women, we go into that perfectionism. We have busy lives, we're always thinking of family and people around us. So it's okay when we have those off days. So just be kind, be kind to yourself, when we're having those off days. And one more don't. And just don't forget your reset time for you. So find out what that is. Anything that day, that 1 hour a day, that 1 hour a day of going to the gym, it's 4% of our day, basically. So, finding out, doesn't have to be gym, it's finding out some movement for your body, again, embodiment, that is good for you, that it resonates for you, that you're just spending that time to connect back to yourself.
Thank you. I like that. The time for your reset.
Yes.
What does a day in Georgina's life look like?
What is my day? Oh, it's very varied.
So let's go to your rituals. What are your nervous system regulating rituals?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is the gym. 7 a.m. every day. It makes a massive difference for my, this is my reset. Releases my endorphins in the morning. It's an amazing community, so I get that connection. For me, connection is important. So I get the connection, we have laugh, I get a workout in the end, build up a sweat. So, which is great, because then I feel like I can take on, whatever I'm doing that day. So, for me, that's a big ritual that I have. Connection is a big part of it for me. Just having that connection side of it. And it is a big part of it is movement for me. I also I teach yoga only at the weekends. I have a private client, and I teach in a couple of studios, but it's just that for me, again, just sharing that embodiment, connecting with community and people, I really love.
That's your ritual.
Yeah, that's my ritual.
I really picked up on that word, your reset time, because it's so important.
It really
We were
is.
talking before the camera started rolling that you come back from summer vacation, the first thing all of us look at is routine.
Yeah.
You bring yourself back to routine, you get your
Yeah.
rituals in, and then we're back into a good space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Georgina, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.